ago, repurposing the ventilators. Things that would take a month are taking days because people are stepping up and stepping in a meaningful and very direct way. But the magnitude of what we have to accomplish, we must do together as a nation. And in the absence of our capacity to centralize it nationally, governors, we need to start aligning ourselves to our purchasing protocols in a way where we can bring down the cost curve and also address the anxiety about access. And so I just want other governors to know we are committed to working with you collaboratively in that. We've already had a number of conversations, and we'll work through the NGA, the National Governors Association, and others to really formalize that process, those protocols and procedures. So we're moving on all cylinders. We are very pleased, and I want to thank the administration. President Trump called me yesterday and told me that we already should expect, and he was right, those field medical stations to come into the state of California. 2 arrived, one in Riverside and one in Santa Clara already now have arrived. We'll be putting them up in the convention center in Santa Clara and down in the fairgrounds in Riverside. That was part of the 8 that he committed to the state of California. We're grateful for that. Remember, that's 2,000 beds when all 8 arrived, but 2 already did arrive. And we're already in the process of beginning to resource and ultimately get those things up as we can. And I say as we can, but I also mean as we should, which is we don't rush to do everything overnight to have assets sitting there waiting for the surge. This is done in a very sequential way, in a very methodical way, in a very deliberative way. Again, all what we're referring to now is phase 1 in terms of our acquisition and procurement planning as we bring these units, these numbers to life so that we can keep people healthy and address the anxiety that many of us are fearing or feeling. Let me speak to that. I had a little anxiety, as all of you did, watching the news of all those folks and crowds on our parks out there on the beautiful California coast. Normally, that would light up my heart to see tens of thousands of people congregating down in Malibu and other parts of our beautiful state. And it's understandable people's desire, their first weekend now with the new stay-at-home order, some folks testing it. And know that one cannot condemn that, but one can criticize it. We need to practice common sense and socially distance. And that means we need to help you help yourself a little bit more, those folks that were making their way out there, to recognize when you're on a single track trail out in our beautiful wilderness, that single track means going up the mountain and down the mountain, which means it's almost impossible to socially distance. When you're out there and you can't even find parking at a beach, it suggests you're not going to practice social distancing, and it may suggest you may want to find a new location. But to make it easier for you, we're going to shut down all state parking lots, and that will go into effective immediately. Counties, to their credit, are already doing. I talked to a number of mayors last night that moved for their city and their county assets, particularly in the stressed areas of San Diego, Los Angeles, San Mateo County, up into Marin County and Sonoma County. And so we are going to substantially advance what we call these soft closures. There'll be some hard closures, but these are soft closures to reduce the stress on those beaches. I don't want to close big, beautiful, open spaces. Not when we're encouraging people to go outside with intention and purpose, not linger, but to deal with the health needs that we all have of being outdoors and taking a deep breath, practicing common sense and social distancing. And we want to provide a forum for that, but we can't see what we saw over the weekend happen again. Local leaders are leading on this. I congratulate them. The state of California will now shut down all these state parks. What does that mean? The parking lots. And what does that mean? It means 9 of our parking lot facilities in LA County. It means, for example, all the way down in San Diego, Torrey Pines parking lot now shut down, all the way up to Sonoma with the Armstrong Redwoods site going to be shut down. And we're going to be updating our efforts to keep people from overloading and ultimately overburdening the system. And that means I encourage people that want to go to parks in the state of California to go to our parks.ca.gov website to get more information. It will constantly update and provide that information to people that are seeking an appropriate time outside of their home, but not seeking to do what we did this last weekend. So wanted to make that clear. We are stepping up that enforcement, and we are stepping up our efforts to advance closures that will indicate the importance of that enforcement. By the way, just on a personal note, I had a friend of mine who said, boy, I'm out here in Malibu. It's just incredible. It's so packed. I don't know who all these people are. I asked him, I said, but aren't you one of those people? And it reminded me of that old billboard up in Washington State on a crowded freeway. It says, you're not stuck in traffic. And you're on a crowded freeway, and about 10 minutes go by, and you get about 20 feet closer to the billboard, and you realize the billboard doesn't just say you're not stuck in traffic. In parentheses underneath that blazing headline, it says you are traffic. Think about that. Society becomes how we behave. You're not stuck in traffic. You are traffic. We are our behaviors. And in order to meet this moment, we need to improve our behaviors, all of us, young and healthy, not just the most vulnerable citizens of the state. And the young and healthy have a unique obligation to the seniors to keep them safe. And you keep them safe by practicing safe social distancing. And you can't do that at a pickup basketball game. You can't do that when you're recreating, as you have in the past. So please, please, let us all step up our game and recognize our obligation, not to ourselves, but to each other, to meet this moment. That 50,000 bed number that I just gave you assumes that we're doing that. We have numbers that are substantially higher if we don't. I don't mean that threatening way, quite the contrary. I just mean that in a very sober and honest way, in the purpose of just letting you know we want to bend that curve. We can't bend the curve if everybody's out on a beautiful Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Let me just close on one additional point. There's been a lot of talk about when this will end. Been a lot of national conversations about that. And I've tried to be as transparent as I can based on the expertise that we brought around us and the expertise we source on an hourly, not just daily basis here in the state. One thing I know, when you have a country that just had 100 deaths, that we have some trend lines that are becoming headlines that make us very sober about meeting this moment. The reason we did the stay-at-home order, and the reason I'm pleased that so many other governors across this country have done the same, is we are trying to bend that curve in real time. We could talk about South Korea and China, and it is remarkable. I was just talking to one of the largest retailers in the world. They're opening back up their stores in China, which is that's a wonderful point of optimism. It's a very good thing. But remember what they did. Remember what they did in South Korea, testing everybody. Remember what they did in China that make what we're doing pale in comparison. If you want to bend the curve, we have got to bend to a deeper understanding and meet this moment head on, that we have to act differently. And it's a sum total of quite literally hundreds of millions of people acting differently to meet this moment, maximizing a little bit of their inconvenience in the short term to minimize.
All right, you are listening.